Have you ever faced a problem so big, so frightening, that it felt impossible to overcome? Maybe it was a failure. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was a challenge that seemed much bigger than you. If so, then today's story is for you. Because thousands of years ago, a young shepherd boy faced a giant that terrified an entire nation. And what happened next became one of the most inspiring stories ever told. This is the story of David and Goliath. Long ago, in the ancient land of Israel, two powerful armies stood facing one another across a wide valley. On one side stood the Israelites. On the other side stood the Philistines. For days, neither side moved. Neither side attacked. The air was filled with tension. Fear hung over the battlefield like a dark cloud. Then every morning, a giant warrior stepped forward from the Philistine army. His name was Goliath, and he was unlike anyone the Israelites had ever seen. He stood over 9 feet tall. His bronze armor shined under the blazing sun. His spear was enormous. His shield was massive. And when he spoke, his voice echoed through the valley. "Send me a man to fight me. If he defeats me, we will serve you. But if I defeat him, you will serve us." Day after day, Goliath repeated the challenge. Day after day, the Israelite soldiers trembled with fear. No one volunteered. No one stepped forward. No one believed victory was possible. Among the Israelites was King Saul. He was supposed to be the bravest man in the nation, yet even he was afraid. Everyone was afraid. Everyone. Except one person. Far away from the battlefield lived a young shepherd boy named David. David wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a king. He wasn't famous. Most people would never have noticed him. His days were spent caring for sheep, walking through green fields, watching over his flock, playing songs on his harp, and spending quiet moments with God. One day, David's father called him. "Take food to your brothers. They are serving in the army." David gladly obeyed. Early the next morning, he loaded bread and supplies into a basket and began his journey. As he approached the battlefield, he heard shouting, loud shouting, angry shouting. The voice seemed to shake the ground itself. It was Goliath. Once again, the giant was challenging Israel. David looked around. The soldiers were frightened. Some avoided looking at the giant. Others stepped backward. No one seemed willing to fight. David was confused. Why was everyone so afraid? Yes, Goliath was huge. Yes, he was powerful. But David knew something important. God was greater than any giant. As David listened, his heart burned with courage. The giant was insulting God's people. The giant was mocking Israel. And David could not stay silent. He turned to the soldiers and asked, "Who is this giant that he should challenge the living God?" The soldiers stared at him. Some laughed. Others shook their heads. After all, David was only a shepherd boy. What could he possibly know about war? But courage does not come from size. It comes from belief. And David believed. Soon, word reached King Saul. The king ordered that David be brought before him. When Saul saw the young boy standing before him, he was shocked. "You cannot fight this giant. You're only a boy, and he has been a warrior all his life." Most people would have become discouraged. Most people would have walked away. But not David. David looked at the king and said, "When I cared for my father's sheep, lions attacked, bears attacked, and every time God protected me. The same God who protected me then will protect me now." King Saul listened carefully. For the first time in many days, he heard hope. Finally, he nodded. Go. And may God be with you. Saul tried to help David. He placed a helmet on his head. He gave him heavy armor, and he handed him a sword. David tried to walk, one step, then another, then another. The armor was too heavy, too uncomfortable, too unfamiliar. David removed it. He chose something much simpler: his shepherd's staff, his sling, and 5 smooth stones from a nearby stream. Others trusted armor. David trusted God. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. David walked onto the battlefield, toward the giant, toward danger, toward what seemed impossible. The armies watched. The valley became silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. When Goliath saw David, he laughed, a deep, mocking laugh. Am I a dog? Why have they sent a boy to fight me? The giant insulted David, mocked him, ridiculed him. But David did not flinch. He did not turn back. He did not run away. Because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward despite fear. The giant roared with anger. Then he charged. His heavy footsteps shook the ground. Closer, and closer, and closer. David reached into his pouch. He pulled out a smooth stone. He placed it into his sling. He began to spin it, faster and faster and faster. Then he released it. The stone flew through the air, straight toward the giant. Time seemed to slow. The armies watched. The soldiers held their breath. No one moved. No one spoke. Then, the stone struck Goliath directly in the forehead. The giant staggered. His eyes widened. His massive body swayed. And then, the mighty giant fell. Down, 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 until he crashed to the ground. Silence. Complete silence. No one could believe what they had just seen. The giant who had terrified an entire army had been defeated by a shepherd boy. Then suddenly, the Israelites erupted with joy. Cheers filled the valley. Soldiers shouted. People celebrated. Victory had come. Hope had returned. Fear had been defeated. But David understood something important. The victory was not about him. It was not about his strength. It was not about the stone. It was not about luck. The victory came from faith. And that's the lesson of David and Goliath. We all face giants in life. Sometimes those giants are fear, failure, doubt, or challenges that seem impossible to overcome. But David reminds us that courage is not about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about having faith and taking the first step forward. The next time you face a giant in your life, remember David. Remember that with courage, faith, and perseverance, even the impossible can become possible. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to Everyday Bible Lessons for more inspiring Bible stories and life lessons. Until next time, God bless you.